Hi, everyone. Welcome to Season 2 of Building Connection by Represented. I want to start with a bang this season. We're going to hyper focus on the month of September on my home country, Mexico. Therefore, we have a very special guest. I always think that all my guests are really special, and they are. Um, so we're going to focus on Mexico, celebration of independence, because September is the month of independence for Mexico. So we're going to place it on the spotlight. I'm going to introduce my guest. She's Ingrid Berlanga-Vasile. She's the head of cultural and tourism promotion at the Embassy of Mexico in Canada. She is a diplomat and passionate advocate of Mexican culture, and she is dedicated to promote Mexico's rich heritage and tourism potential in Canada and beyond. So we're going to talk about Mexico's cultural treasures and how it contributes to its global influence. And I couldn't think of a better person to do this. So Ingrid, can you please introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about you, about your career. The audience wants to know about you. So tell us.
Thank you very much, Monica, for inviting me to your program. And I feel it's a real privilege to share with you some of my experience in the Mexican Foreign Service and in general about my life. Well, I was born in Romania, raised in Mexico City until I joined the Foreign Service in 2005. And I began a career as a diplomat. I studied international relations at the National Autonomous University of Mexico, the best and largest university in Latin America, where I also learned 5 languages, French.
Wow, Ingrid.
Yeah,
Go on.
I learned French, English, German, Swedish, and Romanian. I have always visualized myself as becoming a diplomat and representing my country all over the world in multilateral conferences and in different scenarios around the world. I used to have a poster of the United Nations in my room that read, "Welcome to the United Nations, it's your world." And when my first post as a diplomat was a permanent mission of Mexico to the United Nations, I truly believed that visualization and aiming something with all your heart and soul are key to becoming who you are aimed to be. So after 5 years of living the American way of life in New York, I was ready for a new beginning. So I moved to the Embassy of Mexico in Kenya, which is also the permanent mission of Mexico to UNEP and UN Habitat. I had the chance of continuing my multilateral career as well as bilateral, because I was in charge of political affairs, trade, and cultural promotion, and also press. The sensitivity of being in a country with such an extensive natural beauty, where its people have a very pure nature and soul, made me interested in filming a documentary about Kenya, and especially about the work of Mexican missionaries to help vulnerable people in the most remote areas of that country. So I took my camera and my Jeep and I traveled everywhere in Kenya, interviewing people, capturing the most amazing landscapes that you can imagine. And because I believe that images can speak more than 1,000 words. And then I decided to film this amazing experience in this documentary.
Ingrid, I'm intrigued. I watched your documentary, and I'm going to put in the show notes for everyone who is listening to this or watching the video. Take a look. I think back then you were so brave, at least as a woman, to go to Kenya. I think it must be a really exciting place. But I think in the documentary you mentioned that it has a kind of stereotypes around Africa, and I was really happy that you addressed this. So can you tell us what was your experience as a Mexican woman? I know it's in the documentary, but just very briefly, how was it for you?
Yeah, well, exactly. I always challenge and I dare stereotypes. I don't believe that a woman should stay alone, or should wait until a man accompanies her to do crazy things like traveling all over Kenya. So I felt really safe in that country, unlike what people might think, that oh, it's an African country, there must be a lot of danger, but it wasn't. I felt really safe in that country, and I also found a lot of angels in my way, because I found people who helped me, people who showed me the way and where to go, and I carried out this amazing project. And actually, I would love to continue doing something like that, because I know that many experiences can be expressed in books or articles or something, but there is nothing as direct as an image, as a video that shows people that leave very small space for interpretation. No, you can see a movie, you can see a documentary, and you can really see what the other people saw, and that's exactly what I intended with this.
Thank you for sharing that. So I guess my next question is, as a Mexican, I get a lot of mostly positive comments about people who want to visit Mexico. And I have occasionally being the recipient of maybe comments about how dangerous it is, or that you should be careful as a woman. So I honestly, I've never experienced anything, maybe because it's my home country, and I always encourage people to visit, because I think globally it's very positive to talk about it, and people's in the UK, people's perception of it is quite good, but there are always questions and doubts now and then about it. So, in your role, and as someone who is very experienced in this, before this conversation, we talked about the soft power of Mexico. You mentioned it, and I would like you to tell us a little bit about this soft power, because you're the expert. I'm just really curious about the terminology and why it's so important for Mexico's global presence.
Well, first, I would like to explain to your audience what is the difference between the soft power versus the hard power. Um, hard, hard power is what a large industrialized powerful countries use to dominate or put themselves above other countries, which is basically military power and even nuclear power. For middle powers like Mexico, who has a pacifist tradition, who has been even awarded a Nobel Peace Prize for the Non-Proliferation Nuclear Treaty of Tlatelolco, there are other means of positioning ourselves in the world. And that is what soft power is: cooperation, culture, education, tourism, language, and national branding. So Mexico is a country with a very strong soft power. Its immense culture comprises visual arts, millenary traditions, folk dances, ceramics, textiles, designs, sculpting, glass, woodwork, painting, muralism, and practically any cultural experience and expression that you can think of. It also offers a huge variety of tourist destinations, many of which are also related to cultural expressions, archaeology, and magical towns, with a lot of cultural and historic content that make any foreigner fall in love with Mexico. But also, Mexico offers a huge variety of options for those who love luxury, amazing all inclusive resorts, culinary experiences in Michelin restaurants, and adventure trips. The image of Mexico is strengthened through an inclusive, sustainable, intelligent, and diversified tourism that connects Mexico to the world and vice versa. So I believe that potentializing our position in the world, making tourism an economic growth factor that benefits the most vulnerable people, should be the main purpose of tourism, no? Mexico is a country that sells itself. It's one of the most mega diverse countries in terms of natural resources, holding the ninth place in the list of favorite tourist destinations in the world. And I want to share something with you about the a strategy the government of Mexico is currently
Mhm.
implementing, which is called hashtag Diplomacia Turística MX, and it aims to make tourism an economic factor of national development, bearing in mind the connectivity and infrastructure, as well as the economic revenues that it brings to the country. The private sector plays also a very essential role in tourist development, since it contributes to the creation of jobs, the improvement of infrastructure, and the integration of regions that are less developed. Therefore, I believe that it is essential to promote and adopt sustainability and competitivity of tourist destinations, as well as a people's level of life. This would contribute to reducing the events that are, as you were saying, accidental, no, such as
Yeah,
problems with the drug dealers, which is a problem that is very located in Mexico, is not generalized at all.
that's
Also,
right.
the organized crime. It's also something that tourist region are usually not victims of. Okay, of course, if you go to a city and you go to a dangerous area, or you go to a place that not a lot of people go to, you would maybe feel unsafe, right? That's why I recommend always to go on a tour, on a guided tour, and to know very well through the locals where to go and where not to go.
I think it's about common sense, isn't it? But I think the world has very little common sense sometimes. People. Okay. Well, thank you for that. So, a personal question: What is your favorite form of art and cultural expression from Mexico? What do you like the most to appreciate? Maybe there is something you do or practice.
Well, I know that it sometimes might must sound as a cliche, but Frida Kahlo's paints are I really relate with them,
Hmm.
because I think that she was a warrior. She was a woman who broke all the stereotypes of that time, and she really stood for her feelings, and she just materialized them in her artwork. But I love the muralism of Mexico. It's for me, it's something very imponent to see
Hmm.
Siqueiros and Orozco's murals in these amazing buildings, not only in Mexico but in other countries. And and of course, every indigenous cultural manifestation is something that I really admire, especially because these are people who are really trying to challenge the progress of the contemporary modern life, no, which usually wants to homogenize all the cultures instead of keeping every tradition intact. So in Mexico, many of these traditions have managed to become intact, or some of them incorporate elements from modernism. Like, for example, the Day of the Dead, which is
Yeah.
our most worldwide tradition. And I am sure that where you are now, it's also promoted, and people love to see the altars of the Day of the Dead. Some skulls are no longer made by sugar. Maybe some skulls are made with plastic, and maybe the masks are also now made with plastic. So these are some adaptations to the modern life, modern world, but still the essence of the tradition is there. And that's something that is magical about Mexico.
Thank you. What are your favorite places to visit in Mexico? Because you're from Mexico City, and I think one of the things of being abroad, and you've lived in many places, you probably have some favorite places to go. So maybe I'm sure our audience wants to know. Can you recommend us some?
The amazing thing about Mexico is that it offers things to every kind of person. Like, it depends on my mood. For example, sometimes I'm in the mood of forgetting about everything and just immersing myself in nature. And then I go to Chiapas, and then I
Right.
go to the Lacandon jungle, where I experienced an amazing when I was 23. I was guided by some Lacandonian Mayan indigenous people, and they took me 4 hours through the jungle, and I
Wow.
camped on a old pyramid that was called the Snake Island. And I didn't know that there were a lot of snakes in that island until I left. They Well, so for example, when I want that, I go there. When I want to go to a place to enjoy the sea and be pampered, I go to Los Cabos, no, or I go to Yucatan. But when I want to immerse myself in the culture, and I go to Oaxaca. Oaxaca is
Mm,
to me the most incredible place. There are 32 indigenous cultures that emerge there, and Oaxaca is a very rich state. It has a lot of archaeological sites. It has the food in Oaxaca is my favorite in the whole country. I love the food in Oaxaca. The mole, the textiles in Oaxaca are also very famous. And then you can also go to the beach in Oaxaca, no? To Puerto Escondido, Mazunte, and Cipolite. I love those places.
okay, thank you. I'm definitely gonna add some links for everyone to check them out in the map. I have to say, I was very privileged growing up. I'm from the north of Mexico, so we travel a lot to the border, and we travel to California. I'm from the northeast, California, and of course, Texas. But my parents had always a very big interest in Mexican culture. So they made sure we went to these places that you mentioned. And back then, I didn't appreciate it. I didn't understand. I always thought, oh, it's better going to the US and visiting other countries. But it's true what you say. There is something for everybody in Mexico, and it depends on your mood. So I'm really grateful for that experience of growing up and visiting Oaxaca. I remember I was like 10, 11 years old. So I want to go. That's my plan next year. I want to go to Oaxaca. Okay, thank you. Um, so you in Canada, can you tell us a little bit about what kind of initiatives the embassy runs to promote this tourism and cultural assets, and what kind of impact have you had maybe in Canada or globally?
Well, Canada and Mexico are very strategic partners, both for trade reasons and for investment reasons. And the tourist amount of the amount of tourists from Canada that go to Mexico is really, really significant. In Canada, there are about 140,000 Mexicans, and in Mexico, there are like 80,000 Canadians, no? So right now, there are many direct flights from Canada to Mexico, but they are mainly to the tourist destinations, like to Puerto Vallarta and Cancun, and now it's gonna be to Tulum. So what we focus at the embassy, we focus in promoting these alternative tourist destinations. We are promoting a lot of Nayarit. We are promoting other destinations that are not the traditional ones, because of course those places are very well known by Canadians. No, Puerto Vallarta, Sayulita, Los Cabos, and Cancun. No, those are the main destinations. But what we really want is Canadians to experience more about Mexico, because usually when they go to these places, they just stay in resorts, and they usually don't go out to see the real Mexico. No, so my role is to promote all kinds of experiences in Mexico, and to encourage them to visit other places, no? So that's our main role at the embassy. And we are also relating the promotion of tourism to other sectors like culture and trade. So when we organize a trade exhibition, we usually always involve elements of tourism, no? For example, when we participate in a film festival where where we are showcasing films from indigenous people, we usually include a video of the state where the film is from. No, so we try to combine tourism with other activities at the embassy.
Okay. Um, so I think it's a gigantic task. It's beautiful, but you must face challenges sometimes. Um, I don't know what kind of challenges, but could you share some of the barriers or difficulties you encounter in this?
Well, some of the challenges, as you very well mentioned earlier, for tourism promotion is are related to the challenges that Mexico is facing itself.
Yeah.
Poverty, inequality, organized crime, and drug trafficking, and a general bad image that many of the media and the press promote about Mexico. No, for example, if there is a Canadian who was mugged in the Mexico City train or something, it is it is it is published in the press, and that creates a bad image. Or
Mhm.
so trying to um, to balance that bad image with other positive image is a challenge. Another considerable challenge that we have is the budget, no? Because of
Mhm.
course this is a government that is promoting austerity and doing more with less. But to be honest, for me, I have been able to solve this challenge by doing a lot of partnerships. Because I believe that when you do cultural promotion, you cannot limit yourself only because you don't have enough money for that, no? And you probably must know a lot of artists that do a lot of things without money. So that's what I'm doing. So with a very, very little budget, I do partnerships with festivals. I partner with artists. I partner with the private sector, with NGOs, and I carry out cultural promotion of Mexico by promoting the national branding with less resources. So that challenge that some might consider a challenge, for me, it has been a window of opportunity because it has allowed me to think in ways of how to broaden my specter of actors involved in the promotion of Mexico. And to be honest, it has been really, really successful. I want to brag something to you.
Go on.
You're from the north, so probably you know the Raramuris,
Yes.
the athletes from Chihuahua. So
Mhm.
last year, I brought seven Raramuri
Wow.
athletes to participate in the Indigenous Games in Canada. So they won, all of them won gold medals,
That's amazing.
and they run with their chanclas, they
Yeah.
run with their sandals. And one very iconic video that I will never forget is when one girl was running with her, her traditional dress and her chanclas, and suddenly her chanclas were very uncomfortable for her, and in the middle of the race she took them off, and she finished the race barefoot. Imagine.
Wow.
And so
Wow.
the Canadian athletes were so amazed by that, that they were like almost worshiping them, because they look very, very little, they look very thin, but they are amazing athletes. So for me, that was such a gorgeous experience because, I help them to empower themselves to feel that they are really, really worth it, and to also to let the Canadian people know who they are and what they are famous for. So that's one of the many examples that I can give you of some of my work.
Thank you for sharing that. It made me think about how adversity can make you very resourceful and creative. And because I work with university students, I lecture, and mostly about employability, and I can tell that they have so many resources compared to maybe how I grew up in the 90s in Mexico. And I'm like, I'm here. I had very little. I had what my parents gave me, and that made me really thick skin and ambitious. And adversity is almost turning that disadvantage or that adversity in your favor. This
Mhm.
is a great example. And sometimes one of my favorite movies is Top Gun, and I always remember a phrase that says, "It's not the pilot, it's not the airplane, it's the pilot." So you can have the best equipment, the best training, but if you don't know what to do with it, you're not going to perform as well. This is a great story. Thank you. I think I'm going to think about. I'm going to Google it as well.
Yeah,
That
I
event.
will send you the
Please
link and
do.
the interviews. Yes.
Thank you. Right. So thanks for sharing the challenges. So I guess other countries probably face other challenges. So perhaps your advice would apply to them as well. That sometimes partnerships or turning adversity to your advantage can enhance that global influence. Is there any other advice that you think other countries, because we have a global audience, um, how could they enhance their cultural and tourism assets?
Well, I believe that collaboration and cooperation between countries is key for that, especially for those countries who have maybe more assets than others. A good example I can give you is a Latin American Film Festival. This year, I coordinated this festival as Mexico. I coordinated it, and it was a very successful event because, of course, many countries face challenges because they have very small embassies. Some embassies are only two people, you know. So we partnered all the countries to make this beautiful, beautiful thing. And maybe some of us had connections in the press, others had connections with some organizations that were very good at promoting cultural events. Maybe others had a very good designer who can make the poster. So we partnered and we made a very beautiful event. Almost 10 days of films from all the countries in Latin America. So what I can recommend people from other countries is that if they see, for example, that their government is not supportive enough or proactive enough, make proposals, join other artists, and build a proposal and go to private sector. You know, you would be amazed by how universities and how the private sector can contribute to create this. So I always think that every cultural event can be directly linked to an academic purpose. No, for example, if it's an event organized with indigenous dancers, then you could go to the faculty of Latin American Studies, or I don't know, the major on indigenous art or something like that, and you can have one of the scholars helping to get even funds from the same university for this. So my only recommendation is never be challenged or never be threatened by lack of resources. And you know what? I'm going to tell you something very sincere.
Yeah.
All my life, my father died when I was 17. My mother and I were left alone in the country. My mother was as a foreigner. She had never worked in Mexico. So I told her, I am never going to stop my dreams because of lack of money. Never. And up to now, it has been my motto in everything I do, even in my work. I apply this because I think that lack of money is not a synonym of lack of opportunities, and no one should ever feel that they are not able to accomplish their dreams because they don't have money. No one.
Especially, thank you for sharing that personal story. I bet that shaped you as well. In but I think this is the big challenges make you grow and definitely have shaped who you are, right?
Yeah.
Um, I think you're absolutely right, especially nowadays that we have social media and you can reach people that you couldn't in the past. Um, if you perceived yourself as disadvantaged, it's about mindset. So I think you developed the right mindset of opportunity, I would say.
And you know what? Something else that I want to add is that when you are in a position like the one I am, no, which is, well, I'm a diplomat, I represent a country in Canada or in Kenya or in Finland. So I believe, because I believe in God, in
Mhm.
the
Me
universe
too.
put me here for a reason. And the only reason can be to help others. So I don't believe that power is given to someone to make himself or herself more powerful. I believe that that power is given to you to give more to others and to help others to flourish. So whenever I do something that I help others to flourish, I feel that my job has been accomplished and I feel fulfilled.
You know what? All of my guests say a similar thing, and you started this conversation saying, "Since I was a child, I knew I was, and I watched it in your video. I knew I was going to be a diplomat. I knew I was going to be a global citizen." And normally, people who have that early glimpse, according to the conversations I had it myself at 13 years old. Early glimpse of like kind of the blueprint of your life. You cannot just do it for yourself or have a selfish intention or purpose. I think, yes, like you said, the universe or something gives you that purpose and you're here to help others.
Yeah.
You're so right in that.
But also, you know what? I don't want you to believe that all my life has been perfect since I was
No,
a it also being a diplomat has a lot of challenges for
mhm.
your life, for your personal life, because sometimes, of course, you feel lonely. Of course, you feel that all your friends are back home, that your family is back home, that sometimes you feel yourself really, really foreign. Then when you go back to your country, you feel like a foreigner. Because now when I go back to Mexico, it's hard for me to feel part of that society again because but I don't feel Canadian either. I don't feel Kenyan either. I consider myself as a citizen of the world, you know?
Yes, I think that's a good compromise. You have to come to terms. I feel the same, and also sometimes I can't speak English properly and I can't speak Spanish properly, so I don't know anymore. I communicate somehow. um,
Yeah.
uh, what does it mean? What is it like for you to be a diplomat? I am very curious about the path of the diplomats because, like you said, you become part of the diaspora. Is that correct? Would I say that you enter that space and you leave everything behind, and I'm sure it's very rewarding but also full of challenges. So how do you what are your strategies to navigate those complexities?
Okay, my main strategy when I arrive to a country, first, I don't know why, but I love to look for houses and apartments. So,
Okay.
because you know, when you do that, you start really to know the neighborhoods. I like to do house hunting and I go and then I write the notes of, whoa, I want to live here, but this is closer to this area, so maybe here. So I try to start immersing myself. I use a lot of the social medias, like I look for groups of Mexicans in Canada, Mexicans who love culture, or I get involved in a lot of cultural activities, a lot of social activities in the city where I am. So that helps me merge with both my own people from my own nationality to understand them, to see what how they live, what their challenges are, and also to the society in the country where I am, no? So that's what I usually do. If I am in a country where I don't speak the language, I try to learn, but I'm gonna tell you that when I was in Finland, you
Oh,
know
that
that
must be hard.
Finnish, do you know that Finnish is the hardest language in the world?
Is
It
it
doesn't
why?
have it doesn't have any root. It is not related to any other language. It's not,
Stop.
it doesn't have a Slavic root. It doesn't have a Romantic root. It doesn't have a Germanic root. So it's a completely unrelatable language. So I
Hmm.
studied Finnish for 3 years, three months, sorry, and then I gave up. And I realized, well, I'm not gonna use Finnish in other countries, so maybe it's not worth to. But I recommend that, no? Like learning the language, as many languages as you can, is essential to understand a culture. And that's why I learned so many languages, you know? I am not telling you that I am fluent in all of them, of course not.
Yeah.
But I learned those languages and they have really helped me, no? Even some words, for example, I know some words in Arabic. When you speak to an Arab person, and you say two words in there. If you say ahlan wa sahlan, if you say kifa halek, oh, they are gonna love you just because you are making the attempt to speak in their language, no, even if it's only two words. So I believe that languages is an essential tool of diplomats, as an essential tool for people in general. If you like traveling and if you like approaching other cultures.
Okay. So as a diplomat or as a person, as a woman, what are your future goals? You can talk about advancing Mexican culture, or you can talk about your professional goals or personal goals. What would you like to achieve in 5, 10 years? I always ask my guests this, Ingrid, so don't take it as a I'm cornering you.
No, of course. Well, the role of the goal of any diplomat, of course, is to become an ambassador one day. No, now
Mhm.
I am halfway. I am a first secretary, but I think I'm too old now to be a first secretary. So I should be a counselor soon, and then a minister, and then an ambassador. So that's one of my main professional goals. But personally, I really want to continue this parallel career in filmmaking, and I'm also writing a novel about the importance of travel in the person's life, like
Oh, wow.
why do people travel, why is it so important, what are the benefits of traveling, how does it shape a person to travel. So but I haven't done a lot of progress with it. So and my internal goal is to visit as many countries I can. So far I have only visited 50 countries, but you
Okay.
know, the world has 194 countries, so I have a long way to go. So my goal was to visit at least 5 countries every year in order to accomplish that goal when I am 90. But it's really challenging because of course I work and I have to I cannot spend all the money to traveling to those countries, but I want to see as many countries as I want in my life.
I think probably COVID, the lockdown set you back a little bit in your goal.
Well,
No,
you
I
won't
bet.
believe it. You won't believe it, but knowing now I think you know me a little bit. So you know what I did? The December of the COVID, I was sent from Ecuador to Mexico.
Mhm.
And then the next year, I traveled to Egypt because I was tired of the lockdown. So I'm
Yeah.
like, I want to go to the farthest place in Earth and to experience something really, really amazing. And that was one of the most incredible trips I have done. I spent there New Year in the desert, in a
Wow.
fireplace in the middle of the desert in Siwa in
Amazing.
Egypt, and I loved it, you know. And I went there alone because I always travel alone. I like to share my trips with people who I found on the way to, and I was really really grateful for that.
Are you writing these experiences in your book that you're working on?
Yes, but now I have stopped writing for about 2 years. So
Oh
I
no, I it sounds like a great book. You should keep going.
that's true. Yeah, I should.
Sounds amazing. Thank you for sharing that. So I guess just to close, some advice. What can our listeners, our audience, do to support and engage with Mexican culture and tourism? What would be the actionable things we can all do? Obviously, visit Mexico.
Uh-huh. Well, it's gonna sound like an advertisement, but
Mm,
you have to follow the embassy wherever you are, in any country or city you are. You have to follow the embassy of Mexico, and to see what the embassy is organizing, because sometimes you would be amazed by all the people that you could meet by attending these events that organized by embassies and consulates of Mexico all over the world. Also, of course, get keep yourself connected with the main sources of information, with the papers, the newspapers from Mexico: La Jornada, Reforma, El Universal, Canal 22, all the these and there is a website for those who love Mexico. It's called visitmexico.com, as
mhm.
easy as that. And you can see all the tourist destinations that you can, that with official information about each of them. So I think that's my best advice, no? To keep connected to Mexico and to go to Mexico, of course.
Thank you. I think if I may add something, uh, if you have a Mexican acquaintance, just connect with them because we
Yes,
love to talk about Mexico.
exactly.
We love to invite you for food and make you tacos and give you chili and tell you about the songs of Juan Gabriel and that nobody understands except us or
Yeah,
our Latin brothers and sisters. So
I agree.
I would recommend people, if you know someone who's Mexican, just connect with them and be curious. And we love to talk about Mexico, so don't be
Yes.
shy.
And now that you mentioned in the beginning that this is the month of Mexico, of course,
Hmm.
September. So obviously, there's gonna be a big party organized by the consulate or the embassy in your city. So contact them and ask them, hey, what's gonna happen? Where is gonna be the Grito de Independencia? The Grito de Independencia usually is free for everyone. It's usually carried out in a public place, so just learn where it's gonna be and participate there, because you're gonna feel the Mexican essence in all its expression, no?
But Ingrid, how do you explain? Because my husband is British. How do you explain him that you shout at 12? He thinks it's like super interesting for him. You shout and you wave the flag and you celebrate that you're independent from the ruling of Spain. And then he's like, "But yeah, but what? Why do you have to shout?" And I said, "I don't know. It just feels good."
Well, for imagine how it was for the for Father Hidalgo to see all this huge mass of people gathered by him to finally fight for our independence from Spain. So he had to scream, he had to say, Mexicanos, unirse por la lucha de la independencia, and then pronounce the names of the fathers and mothers of our independence. So it's so important to pronounce the names of those who helped Mexicans become independent from state and then from Spain, and finally move the
Wave
flag,
the flag.
wave the flag. And it's something that for Mexicans is something really moving, no? And then after that, when you listen to the anthem, and when you are in another country, when you listen to your
Oh
anthem,
dear, yes.
right? It's
I
like
have
the whole
tears. Yes.
it makes me shiver, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So usually that it's such a beautiful experience, because not in no other country in the world this happens except for Mexico. So it's a beautiful way of sharing our patriotism, our nationalism to others, no?
You know what? I feel really inspired, and I'm gonna throw a Mexican party in my house. Yes,
Yes. I
because
wish
somebody
I was
told me.
there to be
Yes, that would be
invited.
great. I'll follow you and see what the embassy does as well. Okay, is there anything you would like to add as final concluding remarks or anything you'd like to share?
No, I just want to really, really recognize the amazing work that you're doing. And by inviting people like me that can maybe give a little bit of our universe so that others can know more about Mexico and to feel inspired, I'm really, really grateful. And I want to encourage you to continue what you're doing because you're doing it great.
I will just get in touch, everyone. I'm always finding great guests like yourself, Ingrid. But thank you for your feedback and happy Independence Day. Feliz Día de la Independencia. Viva
De
México.
la independencia. ¡Viva México! Thank you.